All right. Okay, I think we're live. Hello everybody. How's it going? Um why is it not letting me do this? There we go. Okay. Hello everyone. As usual going to wait until more people show up, but for whoever's here already, please tell me who you are, how you're doing, how your day's been so far. I guess hello. Hello. How's it going? How have you been doing? Hi everybody. Oh good, now I'm drinking an invisible blue cup. Hi. How's everybody doing today? Good evening. Good evening. Hello. Hi. Uh, I am not from India. No, I think it's awesome. Um, anything. What? I'm doing good actually. Thank you. So today I just, I felt last night like I was gonna want to live the next day, and I'm really happy that I did because yeah, I hope there's a lot of good questions that are going to come up today. And I always have really good discussions with you guys. So, this morning, I was reading the 100-page machine learning book, and I'm at about page 65 or so. And actually, for the first time, I mean, my knowledge of SVMs is a little bit fuzzy, but aside from that, I know most of the content in there. But today, I learned what an ROC curve for it's a discussion of part of like precision and recall for binary classification, and that was really interesting. So I would definitely recommend reading the 100-page ML book if you have a chance. It's actually under the agreement that the author's okay if you don't buy it until after you read it and you decide that you like it. You can just kind of read it. So yeah, really really cool. I look different in a cap. Oh, it looks like oh, my phone's going off. That's okay. Um, but let me know if my phone going off is ever annoying. Hopefully, it doesn't do that too much. Okay, so I look different in a cap. Really, I think I've always worn a hat. Have I ever not worn a hat on YouTube? I'm not sure. Um, Pakistan represented. Hello, Pakistan. Okay, lots of people showed up early already, so that's great. Before you run away, let's get some interesting discussion going. So I am going to start with a poll just for fun. And so I'm going to ask the question, um, who is considering a master's in data science slash ML slash all of those other fields? Okay, and yes or no? Yes or no is fine options. Yes, okay. I'm going to ask this question, and it should show up in the chat in a little bit. You can answer that poll for me. So, I've completed Google Data Analytics professional certificate. How do I explore more in this field? Okay, so at the bottom, um, actually, I'm going to wait until probably a lot of people are thinking about the answer to this question, so I don't want to say too much during that. Um, I have a good answer for that though, so I'll say that in a moment. Okay, yes. How many people? 3 votes. Can more people answer that? Yes, there we go. Okay, it's coming in. 5 votes, all yes. Very interesting. Very interesting. 3 more viewers. Yep. Okay, a couple more answers. Just curious. Ah, okay. So sure looks like many people. Okay, there's a no in there. Finally, very overwhelming yes though from who was here early on. So that's very interesting. Many of you are considering a master's in data science or machine learning or statistics or analytics or whatever they want to call it. Artificial intelligence is probably a common one as well. And now I want you to type in the chat what in particular is the reason that you're interested in a master's, whether it is for academics or like you care about the research, or maybe you're trying to get a particular job, like a really good job, maybe even like the FANG level companies, or maybe you're abroad and abroad is probably more people are abroad and than I am than are over here, but um, for other countries, maybe you're trying to get into North America or some other continent, and you're trying to get a master's to hopefully get like a foot in the door in that country. That seems to be a pretty common theme. Yeah, just let me know what you're thinking there about why you're doing a master's. That should fill up the chat, and we can talk about that after. So I'm going to end that poll because it looks like it's done. And okay, so firstly, to answer that question about the Google Data Analytics certificate. So this is a really important question, and I hope everyone sticks around for this answer. Is after you've done the Google Data certificate, how do you explore more in the field? So it definitely depends on what you're trying to do here. It's a great certificate to get started, and you just kind of get a feel for everything that's going on. Except even I don't know if it says job ready. I know the IBM one says job ready. You're not really job ready with the Google Data Professional Certificate. You might get a minor, some sort of an internship that you don't do too much in analytics or something like that. But without a lot of other stuff on your resume, it's not going to get you too far. But it's a great step so far. So basically, what you would do after that is you need to learn machine learning, in my opinion. So I know a lot of people are here data scientists, and I think there's an overwhelming opinion that data science doesn't necessarily have to do with machine learning. But if it's not, then, and I mean, you took the analytics certificate, it's called analytics. So if you're going the analytics route, then that's totally fine. What I would recommend for you is learn more about big data and the cloud. And so that'll be, so basically in the description of this video or description of this live stream, I have, I just threw in my entire thing. I kept building this up and up and more towards the description is fully from a different video that it talks about the order of what I would suggest for things. And so right now, if you did the Google one, you would be probably step 2 or 3 by now, where basically you need to learn machine learning and deep learning. So it's hard to get away from that. And if you really don't want to do ML, you want to do analytics, then that's totally fine. That's your choice. But I would probably go look down below the description and see the further steps that are down there. You're definitely going to want to go to like whatever 4 or 5 is. It's like the cloud. You want to learn big data in the cloud. So I definitely think about that one. And as well, definitely machine learning and deep learning is your next step. Okay, one question, machine learning models up to beginners. Is our machine learning modules, sorry, up to beginners or intermediate level? Do you mean our machine learning modules as in the one that I'm producing for you, like the ML course? If you mean my ML course, then it's for complete beginners. I even explain stuff like calculus to a point. I try to limit it as much as possible, but I do talk about differentiation of functions, um, linear algebra to a point, and it's meant for beginners. Yeah. Is Python enough to master machine learning? Um, so if you mean is Python the only programming language in particular you have to learn for machine learning, I would honestly say yes, quite genuinely. So Python is a phenomenal programming language, and it can do really anything, move stuff on your computer file system, which is honestly most programming. It can even do backend stuff like Flask or Django, set that up. It's often an interface to cloud APIs, talking to AWS or GCP or something like that. And of course, most importantly, as you said, for machine learning in particular, they have it both set up so you can very easily use the APIs like scikit-learn, TensorFlow, Keras, and also if you're trying to learn stuff from scratch, it's also really really good to just look at. I can build a neural net from scratch, and Python's a great language to do that. So honestly, you could get by. The reason that you might want to learn a different programming language is, in particular, you may want to learn R if you're more into the statsy side, especially if at your company they're still a little bit not necessarily old school, but a little bit earlier as to what happened was it's great for building statistical models, something in particular a general class called generalized linear models. They're very good at that. So you may want to do that because it's a little bit better at observing these different, basically explaining the model. It's better at that. But yes, you could get by with Python, and you also may want to learn C++ depending on where you want to go. Again, the example I always give, and it's one of many examples, but if you want to get a job at like NVIDIA, a company like that, they do GPUs, anything really low level where stuff needs to be like fast, 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 you probably might want to learn C++, as well as computer vision. It's a very heavy duty task that's also very involved with like robotics, so you may want to learn C++ for that. How to start out in the field of machine learning? Greg, can you please guide? Okay, yes, this is definitely why I've started to just leave the description of the video so that I can point to this, and it makes a lot more sense when I say it rather than go find this thing. So if you want to learn machine learning, please check the description of this video. That is my pathway to learning machine learning, but I will describe in general. I think it's important to understand why I'm saying these things. So in general, I suggest starting with the IBM certification. By the way, that actually has currently a 25% off right now that's expiring in a few days. So for anyone listening that's thinking about doing the IBM certification, that's probably the best thing you can do out there. I would get that. Make sure you click that link and see that it has 25% off. Otherwise, let me know. Um, that's expiring in a few days. So basically, I recommend that pathway because IBM data science is a great introduction to the field, or you may want the Google Analytics, and not sure, but I'd probably push towards IBM. And after that, to learn machine learning, you just need to jump into machine learning, really. So there's a couple books. Again, at the beginning, I was talking about the 100-page machine learning book. That's a decent start. It doesn't teach everything, but it's a really nice intro to the field. And I recommend 100% the Andrew Ng machine learning course, which is, I believe, step 2 in my description down there. So highly recommend doing that. And all the content is free, but again, there's a reason I say get the certifications, and it's because like if you're doing all of the content already, then you may want to pay for it, you may not want to. It's really up to you. But that's what I would do is do the machine learning course down there, or if you really don't like that it's not in Python, and honestly, I would just kind of not worry about it because the coding is not the important piece of that. I would probably do the other one that I have suggested down there, which is the University of Washington, but I'm not quite as familiar with that. I don't think it's nearly as good, I would guess. So after that, you need to learn deep learning. So to learn machine learning, you need to learn machine learning, but please, 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 if you're going to bother to learn machine learning, you just need to take that next step and learn deep learning. So please do the specialization of deep learning that comes right after machine learning. It is meant for that. They designed it for that, and it'll pay off greatly in your career. Okay. There's also more steps down below if you're curious about reading those, but I'm going to stop there for now. So you already have a master's. Awesome. That's really good. What's your master's in, and what are you focusing on? What's your thesis going to be on? To become a computer vision engineer, is it mandatory to learn C++? Well, I'm about to start my first job as a computer vision engineer, and I believe they have no intent of me using any Python code, and so it's really up to what the heck they are doing. So, computer vision, there's lots of great Python APIs that are still, quite fast because they're written in C++ and underneath, or C underneath, but that's you that might be fine. So Python may be fine. The reason you may want C++ is definitely if you're working at something like NVIDIA where you're doing, so basically GPUs are what makes computer vision and all neural network learning very, very fast. And so if you're involved in that kind of process where, for example, NVIDIA has a product where they have a software piece of software that when you're playing games, they can basically upsample or increase the resolution or increase the frame rate of your game because they know how to utilize GPUs. And so if you're involved in that kind of thing, it's in very high demand. So I recommend going into that if C++ is something you enjoy doing. But I am not a big C++ fan. I know it to a point, and I know the whole pointers and classes thing, and it's not really where I like to go. But it really depends what company you want to work at. So maybe yes, maybe no. You're very welcome. We apparently retracted 3 messages. Okay. Can you suggest some books for math and statistics for machine learning? Yes. So the books are, and I know them, but I'm going to make sure I don't miss them. So I'm just going to type it up. The ones that I would recommend are that's not I've never heard of that one that I just clicked on now. So for the math, it is mainly I actually didn't get the search I wanted, but it's elements of statistical learning is a very painful and honestly even I have trouble reading that. Even with all the math that I've taken, it's pretty iffy, but that's the book you'd go to. There's also Intro to Statistical Learning, which is a little bit easier to understand, a little bit more application focused. There's a very popular book called Hands On with scikit-learn and TensorFlow, and you'll reckon it. You'll probably have seen it before. It's like a red and white book with like a gecko on it or something. That's not super into the math, but relatively into the math, and a very good book. And there's also the deep learning book, which will make you cry to your yeah, like it's absolutely terrifying linear algebra that it covers everything. If you read that book, you would, have quite the salary. I am guessing if you read that book and understood it. And so I'm suggesting things that, you know, that's what people would say. There's again, was reading the 100-page machine learning book, which is really good to check your boxes. Basically, it was really good for me. Just by the way, the author is incredible. Like I love the way that he talks. It's very approachable. And it's a really good box checker, as in, like, you read through everything relatively quickly, and then you realize you're missing something somehow in the pipeline that, one course excluded or, one other book excluded. So I find it very nice. So 100-page machine learning book, elements slash intro to statistical learning and deep learning are your answers, what most people and me would give. Different, I guess statistics. I mean, there's some statistics books that don't involve machine learning, like regression. You probably should read about regression as well. Difference between machine learning and data science. So data science is basically all encompassing, and in my definition, and I have to say that because people have different definitions for these things, and that's why these questions arise, is basically my definition is a data scientist should know machine learning. You, if you're not, if you're data science if you're in data science and you're not an analyst and you don't know machine learning, then I don't know what you are. So the way that I want to classify between analysts and data scientists is that data scientists will do a lot of what an analyst does, and there's a lot of overlap. Except definitely even at my last company, like we call ourselves data scientists, and it's kind of assumed that we knew deep learning as well. Like it was kind of assumed that we knew embedding layers and convolutional nets and RNNs and all those types of machine learning type algorithms. And definitely a data scientist should at least understand the concept of training a model, how you would evaluate a model, how you pick a loss function for a model, that type of thing. Which, again, if you're looking for, highly recommend looking at the materials down below. They will really get you good at that stuff, and great certifications for your resume that are great to show off. I get a lot of questions about Data Camp, and I feel like it's a site that I've been to before, but I never remember what it is. So I'm going to go on screen, off screen about that and see if I've been there before. Data Camp. I don't actually recognize it. So let me get back to you on that one. Oh, is it like? Oh, it looks a lot like Code Academy for particularly data science stuff, right? Um, that's yeah, okay. I'll actually get back to you on that one for data camp. I get a lot of questions about that, so I should be able to answer that better. Economics. This is the answer to the masters, right? Yes, masters in economics. That's great. There's definitely, depending on where you go, some overlap with data science, and they do cover a lot of mathy concepts. So it should be a relatively easy switch if you're trying to get into data science and machine learning. Obviously, there's a lot of learning to do still, but that's great. That's really interesting. Good job. Is it necessary to have a certificate for becoming a data scientist slash AI slash ML engineer? Won't it be enough if we had the knowledge of the concepts and a capstone project? I have to answer no, that's not enough. And the reason for that, unless your portfolio project is that stellar, like you're saying something like I won this Kaggle competition and I made 10K off it, or I made this project that solved this problem that everyone was having, and it was very important. Other than that, most projects they're hard to stand out from each other, and so of course something like it sounds kind of cocky, but obviously I talk about my own portfolio is, something like YouTube, where clearly it has a little bit of an impact on other people's lives, and it shows that you know a lot of material and you stand out. So unless you have something like that, then I highly, highly recommend getting certificates because it's a really nice way. First of all, it helps the algorithm, and believe me, like the internet is like I'm sure you know how powerful the internet is, but seriously, like you can get a job on LinkedIn by doing nothing but having stuff on your LinkedIn profile that comes up popularly or commonly in search. And so if they're searching for someone that knows machine learning and you have a project on your resume or on your LinkedIn that has machine learning, that's great. But also something that they know a lot more is like all these certifications, like, oh, they've done the neural network course from Andrew Ng or whatever. So you get a bunch of those certificates, and it helps in search. It helps humans really know what you know. And believe me, they really, really know these things. And so that's why I try my best to put in the certificates down below that are actually helpful. If I really wanted to, I could throw 100 links down there and show you everything that's possible. But I make sure to say, like, no, these are the ones that get those certificates. That is what actually will really boost your resume. So follow that pathway and get those certificates in that order is my honest, genuine opinion of what to do, both for learning the material and for showing off to employers that that is what you need to do, or that is what they want you to do. They really, 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 really help. Okay. The other things that can help, obviously, certificates are not the only way, but the question was about certificates. So, yes, that is a really, really good way to do it. A master's is 100% better than a couple certificates. Like I think it's relatively common sense that if you can get a master's from a credible university or even a non-credible university, it would still be better than certificates. Then I would recommend doing that over it. Probably, but it's a really big difference in what you're doing because it's like a 2 year, 1 year, 3 year process, something like that, to get, a fair amount out of it. But you can grind out a couple certificates in a couple months or even a couple weeks. They mostly suggest that you do like 5 weeks or 5 hours a week for the IBM data science, and that's why it takes several months. But you can just grind through these things, get a bunch of certificates, and that'll really, really, really help. It's not too much money, and think about it. It might be it may be too much money for what you're trying to do compared to a master's, but that's my recommendation is to get as many of those certifications on my list down there as you can in that order because that's how you can understand these things. I am a beginner in. Can you please tell me a platform which is good for learning? Coursera. Honestly, like I even saw a LinkedIn survey yesterday that said the various platforms. It was like, what is the best platforms for learning machine learning? And Coursera was over 50% compared to a bunch of other options that were like less than 10% each that people just have their own opinion on and try to be special. So, Coursera, and again, I'm sure I answered your question there, but down below, that is the if you want to learn specifically machine learning algorithms, down below there's the Imperial College London for math, but most importantly, the Andrew Ng machine learning is how you would do that. Uh, SAS, I don't recommend learning SAS. It's kind of old school. It's kind of niche. Uh, no, I would probably at least go R, but I'd probably say just go Python. Python or R is my honest opinion. I'm not gonna lie to you and say things like, yeah, SAS is like a decent option. Like honestly, it's sure it's a decent option, but if you're asking my opinion, I really don't recommend doing that. I would do what I have done below. Hi Arshia. What are math topics absolutely necessary for data science? I'm going to assume that DS is data science and not data structures. I've seen both, but assuming it's data science, then basically what you need to know math wise is, and so check my videos across the channel. It'll take a little bit of scrolling to find some of them, but for statistics you need to know definitely what random variables are, what like PDFs, like so basically probability functions, what a probability distribution is, and just a couple different examples of like what rolling dice could be in a random variable. And by the way, it's just random variable just means like something, it's representing uncertainty and describing it with a probability distribution, which is assigning a likelihood to each of the events. That's all that it is. And if you understand that, then that's relatively good for statistics. I definitely recommend learning regression. So, uh, you know, linear regression, and if you can extend that to generalized linear models, that'll help uh, kind of bridge a path between the standard regression, because a lot of people know regression and they know neural networks, except they haven't seen the middle ground, which is generalized linear models. So that would really help. There is some calculus and optimization you need to know. So basically, the point of a machine learning model is to get good at, or get a low loss function, which just means try to get low error. And so to get low error, we need to optimize a function somehow. So gradient descent is used for that. There's also, several other algorithms that you don't really need to understand too much, but mostly the idea of that generally we take derivatives of a loss function, and then we try to find the right parameters. So just get to the point where you understand in supervised learning, it's about learning these parameters. We generally try to optimize a function to find those parameters, and you're honestly mostly good to go. Should I buy Anaconda? Anaconda's free. Set up in my company computer. Oh, in my company's computer, or individual version is enough from legal point of view. Ah, okay. Yeah. Probably wouldn't recommend buying Anaconda if I didn't know that they had a commercial software, but that's unsurprising. I We can have the discussion about why it's worth it. I don't think it's a good option personally. I think there's other ways around that. Even just Python virtual environments is fine. Git repo and Python is usually fine in my opinion. Thank you answering my questions. You're very welcome. On Coursera, would I recommend IBM or Google? I would definitely recommend IBM. And also, by the way, right now I would 100% recommend IBM because, again, for those people that didn't hear me the first time, sorry for saying things multiple times. It is 25% off right now to get the IBM certification that every employer I've ever met knows these things. They heard of that and they respect that. So I would definitely recommend getting IBM right now because in a few days, make sure you do that now because in like 6 days that link's going to expire, and Coursera never gives discounts. It's very, very rare. So I would hop on that. And Google, even if IBM was even more money than Google was, I would still probably recommend IBM. And just for the learning materials, what they talk about, I would probably do IBM over it. You're interested in doing a master's in data science. What are the fundamentals you should develop to do it? Okay, so to do a master, so I'm going to assume that you have an undergrad. Um, could you please specify in the chat what your undergrad is? And actually, just to be curious, I still want you in particular, Krishna, to tell me what your undergrad is, or if you don't have one, that's totally okay. Don't worry about like people judging or whatever your answer. No one cares. So. Um, and if you actually don't want to tell me, then obviously don't. That's totally fine. I'm just trying to get a better idea of what's going on. I am going to ask the question, what is your undergrad slash undergrad plan? Okay, so what are you thinking of, or what have you already done? And actually, I guess that's a poll. That's a poll. That can't really be a poll. Um, No, actually, yeah. I can't really think of a poll how to do that. Basically, yeah, let me know in the chat if you guys have a particular undergrad so I can talk particular to those about that. But basically, um, assuming that you have an undergrad degree and you're interested in doing a master's in data science, first of all, it depends heavily on what your undergrad was. So if you're doing something like computer science, the most common undergrads in general are something like engineering or computer science, but I'm pursuing. Yeah, there you go. I'm pursuing an undergrad in computer science. I'm still in second to fourth year. So for computer science, to transition to machine learning slash deep learning slash data science, it's an interesting switch because you know a lot about how computers work. Even generally talking about like optimization algorithms for talking about how efficiently code runs, you know all that stuff, data structures and algorithms, you got that down pat. And so it's a lot of the theory, uh, computer scientists know a lot in this field, but it is actually quite the switch to machine learning and data science, especially in an academic. And so, master's programs vary a lot in terms of how academic they are versus how applied they are. So, some you might just be, using some libraries and high level figuring stuff out, or at my university, the University of Waterloo, I'm quite certain if I was to get a master's in statistics, it would be pretty darn theory and really going into like random variables to a point of me not caring too much. But it's an interesting switch from computer science because you probably might have taken one, maybe two statistics courses or zero, depending on where you're from. Um, but there's a lot of statistics to learn if you're going to do it in a master's route. So you can kind of get by, and I just answered the question of how much statistics you would need to know for doing machine learning. And technically, the answer is learn as much statistics as possible. But I was trying to give the answer that's like how much do you need to get by. Uh, Definitely, if you're going down a theoretical route, like an academic data science route, you need to know a lot of statistics. So you got to start to read up on regression, understand that stuff really, really well. There'd be a lot of questions there. Probability theory, so you'll probably need to know all of the random variables like binary. I'm blanking, but I've studied them a million times. Poisson distributions, Laplace distributions, all of that stuff, alpha, beta, that kind of thing. Um, so get all those distributions down, and definitely I still recommend certificates would help a little bit for impressing. You still kind of need to impress somebody for masters, but more so it's mostly in academics at that point, and so I would get all your theory down as much as you possibly could there. Okay, what is the best? I'm interested in doing master. No, I'm getting lost. Sorry. What is the best way to start with data science? Currently, I have opted for Simply Learn course. I don't know when this was written, but please, yeah, I'm not going to bug the people that have heard this too many times. Please check my pathway down below. That is how I would get started and all the way to the end of being a data scientist. Just check that path. I recommend doing the certificates and getting them if you can afford them, but if you can't, then the material is still free. But people know them, so it's worth doing them. What high level math is beneficial for data science? I already answered that, and I feel like I skipped the earlier question because I've already answered that. I'm getting lost. Arshia, yeah, so that's why, and I am going to point out that if you want yourself to be highlighted a little bit, you get like a badge or whatever, and I'll more likely look at you. I do have a joined like membership program here. It's literally $1 for support, and I don't worry too much if you don't want to do it. If you can't do it, I honestly don't care too much. But I'd really appreciate it if you want to do that. So I just completed Google and started learning IBM data science. Okay, great. Pursuing, yes, I answered that. How many hours to devote? Also, I got to make sure I'm from Ontario, Waterloo in Canada. So Ontario's the province. It's very close to Toronto in Canada, if you've heard of that. So, how many hours to devote in a day for preparation of machine learning itself? This is a great topic, and I really hope that everyone stays around for this one. I do hope while I'm answering this that some more questions pop up. Hopefully, I'm sure you're wondering something. Please don't worry about people judging you or whatever. Just lay down a question, and I can really help you out. That's if you're here, please benefit from this. So, the how many hours should you devote to machine learning in a day, for example? So it really, really, really depends on what your life is. So if you are doing a full-time job, then you're probably not going to be able to do much from the main course of the hours of a day. And that's why the certifications specify those hours, because they say something like 5 hours a week, because they're assuming that you have a job and you're trying to transition to data science. And so you could do like 1 hour a week, or yeah, 1 hour a day or something like that. So if that's who you are, then 1 hour a day is great. What I recommend the most is trying to learn both, learning theory and doing stuff at the same time. So I recommend those Coursera courses. They're great, but they're not always the most applied. They're great at theory, and some of them are more applied than others. But try to learn something and then go do it. Learn something, go do it. So, for example, say you know nothing right now and you learn general SQL syntax. And so you're like, okay, I can select stuff, I can join stuff. All right. And then you don't do anything about it for a week and then you kind of forget what happened. But you could have really cemented that in if after you learn that stuff, you go make a mini project where you just go play around with SQL, or you see how you can make your own database with SQL, or you learn about simple linear regression. And so people learn about that as a building block often for bigger machine learning algorithms, and you don't think about too much about what that does for you. But it's great, it can solve a bunch of problems, and so you should go out, try to use simple linear regression and scikit-learn, or build it yourself or whatever. So try to take something from a course and then also do something at the same time. But that doesn't answer how many hours in a day. How many hours in a day? It's really whatever you think you can do. And so it takes a lot of pushing. You need to kind of get out of your comfort zone and do a little bit more than you think you want to do. Like, I don't mean kill yourself, like work super, super, super hard on it. That's a great option and it'll pay off for sure. But don't work so ridiculously hard that you can't wake up the next day and enjoy it. Make sure that you're enjoying whatever you're doing. And so if you're not liking whatever it was, then keep giving it a little bit more effort. See if it's there's a difference between not liking something and not understanding something. Understanding, you just have to focus and push through it, and the not liking, switch. So I can't give you a specific number of hours a day, but I can say that the more hours that you put in every day is going to help a lot, as long as you're not overdoing it. And I can't really overdo it for the most part from where I am. Like for making the YouTube channel about data science, I could do 10 hours a day and probably still push through. Occasionally, I get ever so slightly burnt out with it, and so I need to take a break. I make sure to break every single day. I do not, for the reference, I do not work all day. I try to, if I'm doing a live stream, that's not all I'll do, but I'll definitely take a big break after a live stream because it's a lot of talking and effort for me. But yeah, do whatever you can. The more you can do, it'll really pay off. And set goals for yourself if you have a goal. So if you're trying to get out of your current job and get into machine learning, well, find the pathway. And by the way, the pathway again is down below of what I think will get you ready for that. Um, you know, Try to figure out how long it's going to take you, and depending on, it's hard for me to say how long it's going to take because everyone learns at a different pace. Everyone cares more about learning particular pieces and understanding more than others do. But in general, you can get to that pathway that I have down there in the course of a few months, or like several months. Probably less than a year is fine, as long as you're putting a lot of effort into learning that stuff. And if you're only putting like an hour in a day, then yeah, it could start to take a while. Okay. Oh wow, lots of questions there. Thank you. I appreciate that. Where was I? Um, so I am technically self-employed, but um, through YouTube. But I do. It's not enough money right now to sustain a job. So basically, I'm going to be a computer vision engineer. My final internship at this for the university next term. It'll be for 4 months, and then I'll do 4 months of school, and then I'll be done my undergraduate degree. Okay, so is it possible to get a job on the basis of certificate in Canada? Okay, so basically, yes, absolutely phenomenal question. If you're trying to get into Canada or the United States or maybe Europe or something like that, and you're taking certificates and you're wondering if it'll be enough, uh, the pathway that I have down below, I believe is sufficient, and I think any part of the path is very beneficial. So even if you only get to step two, step three, I think all of those are extremely beneficial no matter what. And if you get all the way to the end, I would say 100%, as long as you've done all that stuff and you made your resume, pretty good, like you've done some cool projects, then I think you should be able to get a job. Yes, I would say that you'd be ready. Most employers would at least consider you. I can't say that you're just suddenly a phenomenal candidate where like everybody will be asking to take you, because that's not true even for people with like it's ridiculously competitive. So I can't just say that you'll immediately get a job, but I would say that given that you've done that pathway and then you've gone on your own and done something a little bit interesting, then yes, you'd be in the pool of people that, if you get lucky, then they would pick you and you would be able to pass your interview, and you'd have a high probability of at least getting an interview if you apply enough. And so again, still, if you do all that stuff and you apply to 5 jobs, I sure hope that you expect at most like one call back, because it's a probability game. Like if 1,000 people apply to a company, and you know 900 of them are really good, they can only interview like 5 people still, or 10, something like that. So don't stress yourself out if you don't get a job from that. I'm just saying, follow that pathway. That will be enough to get you into that space where you can start applying in mass to these companies, and you're going to get noticed for sure. And I'm saying this also because the internet is ridiculously powerful, and LinkedIn, people search you. I don't know if you've gotten reached out to before, but you know, the more you step up in this algorithm game at LinkedIn, where you get these certificates on there, it does something to fundamentally to your LinkedIn. Not in the sense that just if they visit your page, I really just want to make this clear. It's not just if they visit your page, it stands out, which is great because humans do that and they will notice that and understand these things and respect that for sure. But it does something fundamentally to your LinkedIn profile, where if you put these certificates on there, you become much more searchable. And people do search, and it's a very, very common way of getting a job is by recruiters reaching out to you and saying, "Oh, you've done these skills." Or they see that you have the skills, but they actually got to you because they found you in search because you have those skills, or specifically the certificates on there are very searchable criteria. Okay, so I really recommend doing those. If you follow that pathway, I would say that you're ready for a job. And any stopping point through the pathway, getting all those certificates, even stopping at step 3, if you get the IBM and the machine learning, the deep learning, really, 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 really beneficial. Okay. So how can a Google Data Analytics certificate help in getting a job? Well, I think I probably helped answer that. It helps you come up in search. It shows employers that you know a lot of different things. It's from Google, and so that's already more a relatively searchable topic. And it's a company that they don't mess around. They don't really they're not going to give you a certificate unless you've done a meaningful amount of work, and so it's a fair amount of work to do that. Currently pursuing undergrad, second and fourth years. Yes, I thought I already read. Um, oh, sorry, that's a very similar comment from above, but okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that letting me know. Okay, so hi, Krish. I've done data analysis, visualization, SQL, be able to complete machine learning in a coming 5 to 6 months. So after finishing machine learning, should I learn some web/app development as a backup because they're more don't learn it as a backup. Learn it as that's the next step in machine learning. Like that's it, man. Like you do all the machine learning and the data analytics stuff. You know that you can if you're thrown into a Jupyter notebook, or what you might see is Databricks, which is basically a Jupyter notebook environment in your company, then great. You know that you'll do the job. Except learn web/app development, because that's what they actually need you to do. Like you're not just thrown in there to make a Jupyter notebook. Well, I mean, I guess I've had that job before, but very commonly they start to ask you like, sure, you do some work in a Jupyter notebook, but then you need to go throw a model into production, and so you need to have done something like Flask before, or some of the other ones. So yes, do that not as a backup because that's what you need to do. But sure, if you're worried about getting a job, is it technically true that there's more back end? I guess even if you're saying web, so front or back end jobs, are there more jobs in that? I guess probably true, but it's gonna start to get weird because machine learning is really really climbing. So of course, so is front end and web and back end development, but uh, the pattern's going to get kind of tricky on what's fighting for the top job there. Currently studying for your undergraduate statistics degree. Awesome, me too. And my university is offering a joint certificate with for SAS. Oh, okay. So are you saying that you can do it for free because the university has basically a agreement with them. If it's something that's inexpensive and not too much of your time, then I would recommend going through with that because it's a good opportunity for you. I understand why you're asking that now. Thank you. But unless it's relatively inexpensive and if it starts to take up too much of your time, I probably wouldn't recommend doing the SAS one because I don't think SAS is a great programming language. Have I heard about OpenAI? Yes, I know what OpenAI does. There's some funny stuff with uh, with what happened there about how like Elon was supporting them and then they're not really open. They're going to start making like commercial products probably. So it's kind of OpenAI is kind of funny. But yeah, unless unless I'm thinking of something else, I'm pretty sure that's who they are. Um, yeah, so they make yeah, so founders Elon Musk, yes. So basically they're a funny company. I won't talk too much about that. They do for anyone that doesn't know, now they do stuff like GPT-2/GPT-3, which they that is a very well known, at least in machine learning, text model for doing interesting text classification slash production. So it can do stuff like generate me talking right now, and you might not recognize that it's actually not a person talking, but it's a computer, and that's done through. I believe I would suspect that GitHub's Copilot is also built off of GPT-3. If I can check that quickly, is Copilot built off GPT-3? Built on top of GPT-3, OpenAI's famous language model Copilot is an autocomplete tool. Yes, so it also drove applications like GitHub's Copilot, which is basically a Copilot. It means like someone's like chilling with you, and so when you're writing code, it automates. You can just write a comment that says like make a model that checks through cross validation. That it has an accuracy over than 80% for solving this task or something like that. Um, and a text model would be good at that. And OpenAI is the company that did that. Good. I'm glad that you found that really good advice. Would love to see some motivation-esque content. Well, that's good because when I did a poll out there for, actually, sure, thank you for reminding me. Um, I will ask again who actually is here because it's a different audience of who comes in the live streams versus who sees the videos. For the most part, it's not the same group of people that pop in and are watching videos than the people that just show up and kind of join a live stream. So I'm going to ask the question: what video content in particular would you like to see? And I'm going to leave it very simply as either projects, which is kind of tutorials and all that kind of stuff, as well as the other option is just going to be like I'm going to leave it as talking. So this is a bit of a weird poll. I just mean it as two branching into two categories only: me coding stuff and showing you tutorials, or me talking about stuff like certifications, motivation, just general advice. So I'm curious because I know the answer to this when I asked my general YouTube audience I think that poll got about like 200 votes back that told me that people still, as I can see right now, mostly are focused on projects. Okay. So actually, that's only 6 votes yet. Okay. Um, by the way, if everyone could just do me a favor, it really helps me out. That if you could just drop a like on the live stream right now, if you haven't done that yet, it's I really appreciate that. Okay, so in general, still, so it's projects. Okay, so people like to see code, and so I want to ask the question, and this is a really good follow up, and I want to see slightly a couple more votes here. Did someone just? I think I asked people to drop a like on the stream, and then a like decreased from 12 to 11, so that's kind of funny. To like, not dislike. So I'm gonna ask the question why. Okay, so why do you care? Why do you want to see projects? And why do you want to see, or why in particular do you want to see code? Because, and I'm not being, I don't worry about what you're actually asking here. I don't care. I'm curious why you care about code. So why projects? Actually, again, I can't actually ask that question as a poll. Um, I'm going to talk to you guys later about that. So the point I was trying to say here about projects is that I think projects are great. They really show, and the way I do editing is to make sure that there's no sloppy stuff. So I'm not going to compare myself to other YouTubers in particular or call out names, but in general, I throw a lot of effort into editing so that it's very clean. That someone watching a video and trying to learn a project, they can go through and see like, okay. That makes sense. I'm watching him do that, watching him do that. And there's no sort of filler where they're just like, try to think about what the next thing to do is, or they're talking slowly because they're writing code at the same time. So I think that's probably part of the reason. I hope that people appreciate that style. Let me actually, that's a good question because I am really curious about that. And I'll get back to the question shortly. I'm just curious because I think these polls, they help me out and they help engage you guys and get your input. So, oh, I just forgot what I was going to say. So, do you care about editing editing projects well? Okay. So, what I mean by this is I put a lot of editing to get rid of those breathing moments, those slow moments, and it's just a quick. I had a 20-minute tutorial that's actually like probably someone else's long 1 hour project that most of the time you're reading it, and it's very slow, and you don't really get a good feel for what they're talking about because it's I don't know how to explain it other than just it's slow, and I think the editing is sloppy to produce more content, which is just a different kind of way of doing things. But anyways, so I am getting some no's in there, which makes it interesting that um, it's a very different for me. It changes how I do stuff a lot because I might put a couple hours into making a video and then only say or still like say an hour or two or three into editing the video to make it clean for everybody. So it looks like in general the opinion is that the editing does pay off. I'm curious about how much it actually pays off, but I'm going to stop asking polls and I'll actually get back to the content. I really appreciate you guys answering these questions. It really, really does have a strong impact in what I do. Um, yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. And I will just shout out again, by the way, the members thing if you want. It's $1 for support, and really what it does is that it gives you a lot more say in what happens. And so if you are looking to ask me questions in particular and change the way I do editing or change the videos I make, then just doing that member thing may increase the odds that I listen to your opinion in particular. But of course, I care about what everybody has to say, and I'll try to balance it as much as I can. Okay, so anyways, where is this? So, or rather do further deep in data science itself, like deep learning.ai. Um, well, so Krish, okay, now I think I understand the question. So make sure that your pathway is machine learning, then deep learning, then Flask and Django and web development stuff after, because to get a job in data science and machine learning, the best thing you can do right now is to get deep learning, do the deep learning specialization, show people you've done this specialization with the certificate is the best thing I could recommend right now to really show off in that field. It's just really great material, and employers love this stuff. So that's what I would get first, and then after that, I'd probably focus on the web development stuff after that. Okay. So you are good in Python. Me too. And tools required for data science like NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib. Still, what tools should I learn to improve my expertise? Okay, so I didn't see. Oh, so specifically in data science in particular, you have to learn PySpark. So down there, I'm not sure if I have it down there, but so first of all, you should definitely learn PySpark, and I think it should be included in the big data specialization. But if it's not, then find the one that's out there. But basically, PySpark is a way to, first of all, I just prefer it over pandas and I don't like pandas. But when you go into a company, they are unable to use often stuff like pandas. It just doesn't work because they have so much data that it doesn't fit in RAM. So what pandas does, for those that don't know, is it keeps data in RAM of your computer. Okay, and that's your computer. If you're in a company, it's actually connected to a cloud. Thank you for whoever just did that. I'm curious. Oh, Arshia, thank you so much for the donation. That really helps a lot. I appreciate it. Um, So basically, the if you're on the cloud, or if you're in a company, you're probably on the cloud. Okay, so you're in an environment where the code that you're running, it's actually something like Colab, and that's why I like showing Google Colab all the time. Not just because it's really easy to use, but it gets you used to the fact that most of the time, code is not running on the computer that you think it is. When I'm typing code in Colab, it actually is just saying somewhere else, no, run this code on this other computer. Okay, so when you we need PySpark to do that, because if we have so much data, we have it stored on like hard disks or SSDs, something faster, and then we try to bring it into RAM with pandas, but pandas can't do that. So we need stuff like PySpark to do fast number crunching, where the data is separated on different computers and it's able to be stored in RAM on several different computers at the same time. And so PySpark allows to interface with that and allow for that, but Pandas does not. So PySpark is definitely my answer based off of what you said, where you say NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib, what tools should I use, or should I learn now? PySpark is the answer in my opinion. And also, I don't see Keras or TensorFlow or PyTorch there. So take the deep learning specialization. Again, I know I'm saying multiple things. My answers are often the same because I want to be consistent with what I'm saying. Do the deep learning specialization. You'll understand deep learning models. They'll do a little bit of Keras, TensorFlow, making models in there. And then do the TensorFlow specialization. Again, really, really highly recommend. Not as many people should, or not many people have it as they should, the TensorFlow specialization that really shows off that you can actually code. Because all the before stuff is great. IBM, machine learning, it's great. Except TensorFlow specialization, that's when you really say like, no, I show off that I can actually code this stuff. Like I know how to do it. That's what they need you to do. They don't need you to do just understand machine learning. That's great. They need you to code models. And so if you can show off with TensorFlow that you know that stuff, then definitely do that. And also just following blogs online and various tutorials on doing stuff, making projects. You'll get a lot better at making machine learning models. And but without doing the deep learning specialization, none of it will make sense. And or you could go with the deep learning book, I guess, but you'll never get through it because it's a very painful read. And so, yeah, that's my recommendation. So for you in your situation, and many people's situation, uh, learn PySpark. That'll help a lot. I have basically an hour for you. So the 30 minutes for RDDs in PySpark is the old thing. And then the new one is the data frame interface, which it'll look very similar to Pandas. And I have both of those videos actually as a playlist that is just the PySpark stuff. So definitely recommend watching that in full, as well as anything from TensorFlow and Keras you can find is going to be very helpful. Okay, I'm final year. Actually, I'm going to take a just drink for a second while I read that. Okay, I don't know what MCA is, and my voice seems to be dying, so. All right, sorry about that. Final year MCA student. I do not know what that is. Would you suggest any latest trending idea? Tell me what that is, and then I will answer your question after. Do I think data science degree from university will be worth it enough for data science from Google? I don't think I understood that. Do I think data science degree from university, yes, will be worth it? Or so would you choose between so okay, I'm always going to recommend. Of course, I have this certificate pathway down below, which is a fast track to these things, and it proves that you know these things and the material's great. But I will still always say that a university degree is better. An undergrad degree is better. Both the stuff that you learn, for the most part, I mean, there's a lot of bogus stuff in there, but it does help altogether. Um, and absolutely, for someone to respect you, uh, anyone I know would prefer that you have an undergrad degree in statistics or in master's in statistics over a certificate, 100%. But it's just the trade-off is interesting because you can get the certificate for much cheaper in a couple of months, and if you really get a bunch of these certificates like the pathway I have down below, then that's not equivalent to a university degree, but you definitely know a lot, and I personally respect you a lot if you know all that stuff, and so maybe that's a better option. Okay. Honestly, it's up to you whether you want to go through an undergrad or master's or not. I'm just saying that if you can, I prefer a university degree, but it's a trade off. Certificates are great too. Voice is dying again. Water break. My profile is amazing on LinkedIn. Okay, so first of all, obviously, thank you. Secondly, to make an awesome LinkedIn profile, you just need to make an awesome LinkedIn profile. And that is as simple as doing stuff. Okay, so my LinkedIn profile is great because I've tried to fill my spare time with as much different things as I can, projects, writing like a small book, posting as much as I can as possible, getting people to like what I do, and obviously YouTube is huge for me as well. So just a bunch of stuff out there, and LinkedIn is everything. So everything you can possibly do to improve your LinkedIn is the best way to get a job right now. So that's why I say the certificates, they go right on there. They come up in search, they show up, and projects and anything you can link on there, showing that that you've done some awesome project, that you have some cool YouTube channel where you talk about this stuff, you have a podcast, you have a Twitter where you post every day, and most importantly, you have a LinkedIn where you talk about data science or something like that. If I was an employer right now, and I'm interested and trying to find someone that's good at data science and machine learning right now, that's not already taken, because a lot of good people are taken. I'm going to look around and see, like, okay, search for data science machine learning people, and I find someone named John or whatever. And sure, John has some projects on there, but he never talks about data science and machine learning. He hasn't made a post about that. He hasn't engaged with anybody. He doesn't have anything outside that's other than just some projects that show up if you link to, if I click your links, then it doesn't have too much. So I would pick the person that's clearly very passionate about this stuff, making posts about it, has some exterior YouTube channel or Twitter or LinkedIn or even Tumblr or something like that if you want to do something weird. Like, just be interesting and build up your LinkedIn profile by being you, doing stuff that you like to do. You know why my channel or whatever is so great? It's because I love doing it. So I do it. That's the answer to everything. It does start with learning prerequisite material, and so for everyone here, you're interested in data science and machine learning. So obviously, there's some prerequisite stuff that, again, certificates down below. Learning that stuff, I think, is the best way to accomplish that, and then you can go ahead and do all that fantastic stuff like making your project, YouTube, Twitter, blah blah blah. But yeah, most importantly, be you and do your own thing. Are there any data science jobs where one doesn't have to work too much? I really? How do, like, no. You're Why would you not want to do work if you're pursuing data science and machine learning? And I'm not trying to judge you. I'm just saying you're in the wrong spot, man. Like, honestly, if this is a question that you're asking, it means you're not passionate about data science and machine learning. And so, please, honestly, I don't mean get out because I don't want you here. I mean, you're not using your time appropriately. If you don't care about this stuff, then stop caring about it and don't listen to what someone told you, and that a data scientist is worth, your salary is so great and you have great job perks and you have a cool company. That all goes out the window if you don't want to work on data science and machine learning. So honestly, it's not important. um okay, so for web development part, I mean, like learning Flask or Django or learning proper web development apps, everything helps. So I mean in particular more so setting up the model. So uh, that means more so the back end, like writing an API that when you call that, you get a request to it, and it'll spit back, like, for example, setting up a machine learning model on Google Cloud or something like that. That's what I mean more so. And Flask is nice because that sets it up and interfaces to all users for free. But more so, I mean in the really back end stuff that doesn't. I don't mean front end, like become a master at HTML and CSS and JavaScript, which absolutely will pay off, and it diversifies who you are, and I think it's an important skill to learn. But it's not really what I meant. I would focus more on back end model setting up. Durations mentioned in Coursera for the first step is approximately 11 hours to complete. So, Greg, will it take the exact duration for completing the entire course? I didn't understand that exactly, but how I will answer this is don't worry too much about what they specify for how long the stuff will take. Just plug away at it, enjoy it, learn the material. It's not going to be super long. It's not nearly as much as you think it is. And you don't need to understand everything so much. Like if Andrew Ng's talking about support vector machines and you don't fully understand the math that he's talking about, it doesn't really matter too much. As long as you're getting the main idea of what's going on there and you can start to apply these things in practice, and as long as you again get the concept of how to train a model, what a model is, this idea of parameters and loss functions and gradient descent, as long as you get that idea, then you can kind of step past some of the math. I think any math learning is great, but a lot of it you just kind of forget and it's not super important. So just kind of do your thing. I have actually not tried Julia, and I was actually talking to my brother yesterday when we were playing. I play Rocket League, if anyone's curious, and I said yes, I might actually start to learn Julia. It looks like it's on my to-do list. It's very difficult for me to learn stuff in particular. So what I mean by that is I'm mostly for my channel. I'm branching off. And so basically, what I do know, I'll try to make a video on, and then I'll try to just take an extra step and then do some particular project and show people that. And so something like learning Julia for me, it would have to have quite the payoff. And so I think it's a great payoff for everybody listening. It's my thing right now, and what I'm trying to focus on is improving my YouTube channel and my portfolio in particular. And so another programming language isn't always the best way to improve your portfolio. It's more so in doing stuff. But for everyone listening, Julia is an upcoming, or at least it's getting popular and is continuing to get more popular in machine learning, and it's on my to learn list. That's some stuff in a language I don't know. um, Connect with me. I just finished it. Okay, cool. Hello. BERT model in 3 minutes. No, I'm not in the. First of all, that would confuse everybody here. But that's really, really technical, and I'm not going to get into that. I have watched a video on how to understand the BERT model once, and I don't totally remember. Basically, what I will say and what it is, generally for text and natural language processing models, it is the complete state of the art right now, and that's what all the blogs are. You can see like Bert and Ernie is the image that is from Elmo or whatever, and so you can see Bert. I'm not going to explain how that works. Please give me a small project that could be online using Flask. I need one for this in 48 hours. Um, Okay, just for fun, why not? A small project that could be done using Flask. Okay, what's a problem that can be solved? And Flask honestly just shows it to a user, or they allow you to upload and download information via HTML slash requests, and so you can do whatever you want. Let's say that you want to do something in computer vision, and I'm just taking this based off of a project that I've done. And again, if Arshia is here, then it was with her. A project that takes in some cat or a dog as a picture, and it's using Flask, so you can interface to the user via just going to the website. So you have that set up where they go to the website, and it has some very simple interface where you can send them a picture of either a cat or a dog. There's some transformation going on so it can fit properly in a neural network. You'll have a neural network set up on Heroku, for example, Heroku Flask app, and it'll do some processing to figure out what that was and then return whether it was a cat or a dog or not, just for fun. Um, that's a similar concept, but a lot easier to do than the project that Archie and I did. Can you guide me on how to be successful in a transition of data science from a development side? Yes, so ridiculously common, and again, I hope everyone's here for this one because I think it's super common, is most people start out in like computer science from an academic degree, or at least just your job is programming, like object-oriented programming stuff, like you're writing Java code or whatever. There's a lot of popular jobs like that. And so to switch from that to data science is really when I recommend doing the certificates. So that's when I think is one of those scenarios where it really pays off for getting those certificates because you already kind of have a job most likely, and if you don't, then I don't. I think I misinterpreted the question, but I'm assuming you're doing a programming job, and so you've got some experience, and you could probably get a couple other programming jobs if you tried to, but you want to do data science, and so that is when it's like you're still trying to hustle away, do your job, and get your money, except you can afford a couple hours in the evening to get these certificates and just show like, no, I am a developer and also I have these certificates to show that I'm in data science. So again, do that pathway down below. It is still perfectly valid for someone that knows uh, development. And in fact, you can even skip some of the optional stuff I have in there, like the data structures and algorithm stuff, because you probably already know that stuff. If not, a review doesn't hurt. But that I think is a really good opportunity to just put on your LinkedIn those certificates down below in that order that shows what you want to do there. Okay, so I want to learn Python in a good way. Python. So I recommend. So I have a mini course that's basically 3 modules so far that goes up until you can write functions pretty well. It doesn't cover classes though, so I think that's a good start. It's the best start that I could recommend, and that's why I bothered to do it. There's a lot of different ways to learn Python. If you don't know anything about Python at all yet, Code Academy is a decent way to get started, just to get a feel for what code is and what it's trying to accomplish and how it kind of looks. But it's not going to take you too far. To learn Python fully is when you really just after you get a bit of a start where trust me, you don't actually want to learn Python fully. You just think you do. Uh, Definitely learn up until classes. And so basically, what variables are, loops, if statements, functions, eh, and then classes, or so object-oriented programming a little bit. Learn that from your favorite resource. There's tons and tons online. And then there's also a bunch of Python books. Like I remember in second year, I read like a full Python book. At least I got mostly through it, and that was pretty good. I forget what that was called, but you'll probably find it. And yeah, Python is after you learn those basics, just start doing stuff, and then you'll pick up stuff along the way, like list comprehension to do stuff faster, and you'll understand the data structures like dictionaries and lists and all that stuff. You don't need to memorize all the code. I think a lot of people think that you want to memorize the 10 different list functions and the difference between a dictionary and a set down to like all of the tiny little details in it. So it's not really that big of a deal. That's how I'd learn Python is, go through my thing, watch those videos, maybe learn classes from wherever. Just Google it, it'll pop up, trust me. Have you ever developed a customer lifetime value? So, so that's going to be you're trying to predict how important it is to keep that customer in your company, or basically keep that customer like tied to your products or whatever. I'm guessing. No is the answer. I haven't done that. I could probably think about how you would do that and some features that you could get to do that. Um, Even unsupervised learning like clustering might actually get something like that if you were to cluster a couple variables, like how recently they bought something and how much they bought. You could probably do some customer segmentation or something like that there. But no, I haven't done that in particular. Can I please share my LinkedIn profile? Google Gregory Hogg. It'll be there. Um, okay. Whoa, something messed up there. Where is this? Warm. Actually, I saw one of your comments down there. Welcome from Egypt. Hello, Egypt. Can I give my WhatsApp? Uh, I no, I don't use WhatsApp for this project. For the project, edit out the unnecessary. Okay. Oh, Krish, thank you. Okay, for the projects, edit out the unnecessary parts, but proper explanation where necessary should not be skipped. I think, and yes, you respect your efforts. Okay. Yes, so thank you very much. Okay, that helps. So you think I should get rid of the parts that are unnecessary, like, just clearly unnecessary parts, and then make sure to explain stuff where necessary. Yes, so that is exactly what I try to do. is there are parts in my videos where I just sit there talking about something because I think that's important to do, and other times I just write code. If I'm not talking about it and I'm just writing code, that's because there's a lot of code that's like, just you just do it because that's what's done, and it does what you're trying to do. Thank you, thank you. So you may want to mention that it takes more time to actually edit it at the start of the video so people don't feel bad about being so. Here's the thing, people don't feel bad. So I don't mean this in a critical way in the slightest. I don't mean that in a depressing way. I mean that if I'm watching someone's content and I don't care about their sob story of I put a lot of effort into editing this and you should watch it because of that. People care about exactly one thing, and that is value to their own life. Everyone should be selfish, and so I am not going to tell them, hey, I edited this a lot. I mean, I could say, sure, this brings a lot of value to you because I edited this well and it's better than other people's. But if I was hearing someone say that, it just sounds cocky and irritating that they're like, oh, yeah, your video is so much better than everybody else's. Maybe there's a way of phrasing that well, but for the most part, no, I don't think people actually care, and I don't think they should care. I'm planning to start learning data science, machine learning, big data down below. Okay, I don't know if you heard me say this or not before, but follow that pathway. The certificates very much help, but all the material is free if you want to. I don't want to use Anaconda. How can I install all data science libraries without Anaconda? VEnv is your answer here. So VENV is what you want to get used to. It's very, very easy. And if you don't necessarily need different virtual environments to isolate your code, then you can just use Python and pip. So if you don't know what pip is, it's pip plus VEnv is your answer right now. So you say after learning machine learning, you should do deep learning, Flask, Django, then AI/TensorFlow. Uh, well, so TensorFlow is synonymous with deep learning because it does deep learning. So no, I would say deep learning, then TensorFlow, then Flask/Django. Warm water plus honey for my voice post live. Yeah, I made sure to bring a lot of different waters here. It is a lot of talking. Indian remedies. Yeah, ginger. Yeah, she loves ginger. So Spark, you should learn just from my two videos are really good. So I have a playlist for PySpark that'll get you started. It'll take about an hour of your life total, and it is very well edited, and it should really help you out. Check my playlist channel for that. Uh, I'm good, thank you. So you're currently studying. That was a spastic sentence. I'm currently studying deep learning, CNNs, RNNs. What are some good projects which I can get started with? So for CNNs, I have a lot of stuff on the channel already. I have an image classifier I think the video is about an hour long. That's really what CNNs, their introduction is, just to do image classification. It says like, if this is a dog or a cat, or if this is, the letter A or the letter B or the letter C or something like that in an image. Those are really good. Basically, just look up blogs if I don't have enough there for CNNs. For RNNs, you're looking into something either natural language processing or forecasting, or so natural language processing is a bit of a catch-all, but it's anything to do with like just not necessarily text, but the idea of language itself. So you could also do like speech recognition. I personally don't know too much about that area, especially the speech recognition, how it's transferred in sound waves and that kind of thing. I don't know, but that's what you would want to look into. Yeah, so projects, CNNs, image classification, some object detection stuff. RNNs, you would want to look at forecasting, like say forecasting as in like trying to predict some changing variable over time. You've probably seen the graph that goes like up and down like that. For stocks, for example, stocks is a good example for RNNs. How to make small project on food recognition with Python. So first of all, this is not a small project if you think it's small, because please reply fast. Please give short answers. Don't give big answers. Okay, so basically, this is not a small project. How you'd make a food recognition project is you would somehow find a food database, it has to have a bunch of food pictures, and if not, you could scrape your own pictures and get your database online. But this is a supervised learning problem where you would need a bunch of data, where you have say 100, 1,000, 10,000 pictures of each class or category. So you would need to define what food you have. So like cake and ice cream. Apparently, I'm thinking about sugar. That's great. Sandwiches and bananas and healthy things, and you would need those labeled as a particular class and get that set up so that you could use a CNN like we just talked about before. You have a question regarding AI. There's an AI day. How do I think Dojo will change the game with AI data? I don't know what this is, but I'm very curious. Dojo is changing the game with AI. Okay, let me look up to search Dojo AI. Um, Dojo AI for the workplace. Something is find out with our airborne. What are they talking about? Returning to the office. I don't know what they're talking about here, but I'm gonna look about that because clearly that's something I should be interested in. Can I recommend data science learning path for a beginner? Absolutely. And again, I apologize for the people that have heard this a million times, but it really stresses every time what I would do. To learn data science, follow that pathway down below in the description of the video. I have all of that in the order that I would recommend. And again, I would recommend doing the certificates as much as you can because you're doing that material anyway. And again, right now, that IBM certification that I highly recommend, it is 25% off right now, and it won't be in 5 days. So snatch that up if that's something you want to do, and I think it's something that you do want to do. You're very welcome. Which laptop I use? And actually, I think I should even be able to pull. I'm not going to bother. So it's the Acer Predator Helios 300. It has an RTX 3060 is the GPU. It's very good, but not state of the art. Um, and the CPU is an i7, the standard i7 for laptops. 16 gigs of RAM. I highly recommend getting above 8 gigs of RAM, at least 12, but probably 16. I was watching Andrew Ng's course. I was taking important notes for your understanding. After one point, you started taking notes about every single sentence. Your notebook was full of formulas. There's the thing. So I talked about this last live stream about taking notes, and I said, and it will continue to be true, that I do not take notes. I do not. Let me just say it very clearly. I do not take notes. I don't write stuff down. I just think about what they're trying to talk about and think about in my head whether I can kind of understand what they're trying to say or not. And the most important piece is when you're learning something, just make sure you're actually learning something or you're taking notes for a reason. So, taking notes for a reason would be if you're trying to summarize information for your own understanding, or if you are not going to have the material again, like the professor's talking and you won't have access to the material, then take notes because you need to do that or you'll lose the information. But I think people take notes because teachers tell you to take notes, and your parents tell you to take notes, and your friends, most importantly, your friends are taking notes, and they're saying, "Oh, you're not taking notes, so you're in trouble." Um, Make sure you're learning something at all times. So if you ever find yourself wasting time, you're like, "Why am I writing down notes? This isn't helpful." That's when you should not be writing notes. If you are writing notes and you think that that's helping you learn, or there's a good reason to it, then keep writing notes. Can I cover some questions that are asked in interviews for data science jobs for freshers, or take a mock interview of someone one on one like other YouTubers do? That would be really helpful. That is 100% in my plans as a video, Krish. I would love to do that. And honestly, even maybe you. I might grab you if you wanted to ask me some questions, or if you'd be really comfortable looking like a fool. Not to say you're stupid. Obviously, I know you're very, very smart. I just mean possibly asking some questions you may not know the answer to. And so that would show an opportunity where I could say, this is what I would have said instead, or this is how I would change your answer based off of what you said. I'd love to do that if possible. Not necessarily particularly with you, but one of the people that is the highest supporters here. So I really appreciate that. And definitely with other YouTubers as well. I would like to collaborate with them, probably at the point of popularity where I could probably get some people to be on my side at this point. And yeah, just with other data science people, I would like to do an interview for sure. You're having have a data set for food project. What steps should I follow? So if you say you have a data set for food, then you just need to have it in a certain file structure so that you can train a CNN on it. And so image classifier is look at Kira's image data generator is the term. Just to make sure you heard that. Kira's is a library. Image data generator is a class in Kira's, and make sure that that can run on your file structure. They'll show you how to do that. And Stack Overflow will also be your friend. But I believe in my video, you might want to watch my full video on my image classifier. It's about an hour long, and that will help you out. Mac Air is sort of good for data science, and so to answer your question, is it good for data science? The answer is no, because it probably doesn't have a good GPU, and neural networks, for them to train, you need a GPU. There's a weird discussion there because most training nowadays is done on the cloud. I do actually like training on my GPU when we're doing something like image classification, maybe natural language processing if the corpus is big, but uh, a lot of training can be done on Google Colab. So you really need to ask yourself, what are you actually going to be training on your computer? But for the most part, if you to answer your question simply, if you are trying to train neural networks on your computer, which you may want to do, uh, the Mac Air is a bad choice. But what is a good choice is anything with a GPU, or you can probably spend a lot of money and put a good GPU in a Mac Air and customize it. But uh, Mac is already expensive, and that would probably add another $1,000, which is unnecessary. Um, so this is about Tesla. Oh, Tesla AI Day. Um, I remember reading about that. I forget what it is. They have developed world's fastest supercomputer. It will be direct competitor for AWS and Google. Really? Okay, I'm gonna write this on a note for me for later to look at that. I've seen Tesla AI Day pop up in my news feed a lot, although I couldn't be bothered to look at it. So that was 5 days ago. 4 highlights of Elon Musk's. I'm gonna watch that video actually. Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna leave that as a tab open for me. Um, yeah, okay. Please make project videos. Yes, I have a project video for your food thing. That'll be the image classifier data. That'll be as close as possible. And I'm not going to make a particular one on food, but that'll be fine. Can do, but with the video off. Oh, hey, don't apologize. I know you didn't mean it. If someone calls me stupid, I get motivated to work on myself even more. I tell people to call me stupid. Well, then you're an absolute idiot, Krish. If you're looking at me, if you're listening to me right now, you're so stupid. No, I'm obviously kidding. No, you're great. So, yeah, we'll talk about that actually. If that's something, yeah. I also was very uncomfortable with the video. There's no sort of definitely no judgment there. It took a lot of pushing for me to get in front of a camera as well. So that's totally okay. And yeah, we can talk about that. Could I speak about transition from econometrics or econometrics is probably how to say it to data science? Econometrics, from what I understand, is the mixture of economics and statistics. And I want to basically Google that quickly to make sure that that's the correct interpretation. Um, Econometrics is the use of statistical models in economics. Okay, so exactly what I thought. And so basically, you'd probably have a lot of the statistical theory underneath, which is great. Uh, it's probably the inverse switch from what I talked about earlier. If he was here, if you nice sentence, if you were here, and so what I said was very commonly people are trying to switch from development background, like coding stuff, just like Java code is my example, a really popular language that's not normally used for machine learning, and you're trying to switch. Bye, Krish. Thanks so much for coming. That's awesome. Have a good day or night. Yeah, good night. So, okay. So, what? Sorry, what was I saying? Econometrics. So basically, you have a lot of the statistics knowledge in there. So you would understand probably like Poisson models and regression for sure, and probably generalized linear models you would have seen before. If not, then it didn't go quite into statistics as I'd expect. And now need to switch to getting really comfortable with programming. So what I've talked to people in econometrics before is that they understand a lot about the statistics stuff, except they're not amazing developers. And obviously, everyone's situation is different. It's just, I guess, a bias that I'm guessing. And you would need to get really good at coding in general. So just get good at Python and data structures and algorithms, as well as the deep learning stuff. So you could probably, for my pathway down below, in your situation, you could definitely skip IBM data science. You could skip, um, actually, no, that probably past that. That's probably good. So I would probably say skip the really beginner stuff like IBM data science and Google data analytics, that kind of thing, and then get into machine learning. And you're gonna have a really nice switch from econometrics to machine learning and deep learning where you understand what it takes to build a model and what that means, except it's going to be different algorithms you might not have seen so much before. You use R. Okay, yeah, that's kind of expected. I would expect you to use R, and so that's fine. Most of the interesting libraries have an R API as well. So you can skip the beginner stuff, but the deep learning is going to be a little bit new, but you're going to learn it a lot faster than other people will. If most people learn deep learning by not having too much statistics knowledge underneath, and that's kind of how they learn the idea of statistics. And so still take that pathway down below, but go a lot quicker than a lot of other people would, is probably what I would say there. Having two offers in hand, one is data science and other is machine learning role. Which is good when it comes to salary? So in general, machine learning is paid higher, but also this is a very tricky discussion because it really depends what the job is. So data science, I assume you know machine learning, and so I just want to again clarify, and I did say this earlier, but that's okay. So data science is basically, it encapsulates machine learning in there. So if you do data science, I basically assume that you are a good analyst. You know SQL and visualization, and you've probably done even like the report generating kind of thing, but you don't know the machine learning concepts, unless you're a data scientist. So when you're asking between data science and machine learning, well, I kind of assume that you know data science. So the question I will say is valid here is analyst versus machine learning, and I would definitely do machine learning rather than analyst for many reasons. You're very welcome. What about the role of algebra? So, which special algebra topics would I recommend to focus? So, when you say algebra is more of a high school level of algebra, and so basically just after algebra ends in high school, that switches to something called linear algebra in university. And so linear algebra, I guess there's also Boolean algebra and probably some other ones, but in general, for machine learning, we're talking about the idea of, looks like I cut myself off and I'm looking at the wrong piece now. Um, yeah, sorry about that. So basically, the I just lost my train of thought. So for algebra, linear algebra is basically the study of doing algebra, lots of pieces at the same time. So machine learning, you're very welcome. Machine learning is about doing stuff at the same time, and most things in algebra are is that to train a model you have multiple pieces of data. I have a variable, or even one piece of data. It has, say, if you picture an SQL database, for example, any database, we have many rows and many columns. That's why we need something called linear algebra, because we have lots of pieces of data and a lot of it can be parallelized. And I'm not going to talk too much about that term, but it means doing stuff at the same time. And linear algebra is a formulation that'll allow that for math in general, and then that's implemented in stuff like NumPy in Python. Okay, what is the minimum in terms of memory size, number of CUDA cores, GPU that would be useful for machine learning? Looking for a useful small form factor board for my current system. So honestly, if you're going for, if you're buying just like a normal computer, then, or upgrading a GPU in a computer, then stick with the mainstream GPUs. I don't really know offhand the particular values, the metrics that are used there. I know I've seen it before, like a compute power or whatever it is for CUDA, but basically just stick with the common GPUs. And I don't recommend going AMD because it's fine, but you'll probably run into weird issues. You probably want to stick with NVIDIA GPUs, and right now we're in the 3000 series, and so stick with uh, 3050. I just say 3050. So 3050, 3050 Ti, 3060, 3060 Ti. And that is a fair amount of money. So if you can't afford that, then there's also stuff like 1650, 1660, 1650 Ti, 1660 Ti are all good options. And most importantly, just look at benchmarks on GPUs and compare them to basically just use the benchmark sites and compare them all to uh, maybe a 3060 or something like that, a very common one, or a 2060, and try to not be too much below that. Yeah, learning in Coursera, Data Science Professional Certificate in the third course. That's great. Good job. Keep it up. You're going to get there in no time, I promise. Where do I practice more in SQL syntax? I get syntax. Everyone gets errors on SQL syntax. That's fine. Don't worry about that too much. I don't know exactly what your level of SQL proficiency is, uh, but honestly, right now, if I was to do a live of me doing SQL, I know all the concepts like a where clause. I'll filter by rows, or a select. I'll filter by columns, or a join. What the different joins are, then sure. I know those things, but if I was to write out a full query right now, it would probably say, you messed something up there the first few times. That's fine. That doesn't matter at all. So don't worry too much. Okay, so right there, I think now is actually a good time to call it before I get too sore of a throat here. So, thank you everyone for coming out, and yeah, I really appreciate. Thanks, Sarshia, for the donation. Again, for the people that are still here, really the takeaway is just do that description, or go to the description of the video, go look at what's there, follow that pathway, and that is my answer. And again, I will just say that the LinkedIn stuff, I'm all that I'm saying there is completely true about employers will find you by searching you out on LinkedIn. Sorry. The more certificates that you have on there, the more searchable you are. When people find you, the more impressive you are, and projects and your own personal portfolio, making that super awesome is awesome. So that's I just said something awesome is awesome. But seriously, just keep people are saying like my LinkedIn profile is awesome. It's just because I'm doing stuff, I'm putting in a lot of effort. And so certificates are a cheap, nice, awesome way to do that. Getting a university education is preferred, but a lot of money and a lot of time. A master's is a lot of money, a lot of time, but preferred. And yeah, I hope I answered some questions there. I really hope to see you next time. So really great discussions every single time. So thank you everybody that ever showed up, and the people that are still happen to be here right now. Thank you so much. And again, if you do want to support me, I'm trying to do as much of this as I can. Even just the membership tier where it's like $1 a month for support is very beneficial. But do not worry at all. Like I still love you either way. Do not think I care. I really don't. But thank you so much if that's an option. So, and there's also other tiers that are trying to provide more value to you if that's something that you want. Okay, so you're very very welcome. You're very welcome, Moroccan follower. Um, yeah. Okay, so that's the takeaway, and thank you so much everyone for coming. I hope to see you next time. It'll actually be a little bit till I live stream again because I'm going switching houses. I'm moving right now, and I'm going to be in the process of moving to like my parents' house for like a week or so, and then their internet's not the best, and it's kind of weird to live stream in my parents' basement, so I probably won't be doing that. I love you too. And yeah, so I won't live stream probably until, let me look at the date very quickly. So it's 25th. It'll be probably about a week from now. I'll try to throw a live in there. So keep your eyes open. And sorry for the people that are just coming in. I'm about to leave. But yeah, thanks so much. I hope to see you next time, and bye bye.